In the previous chapter, the Heaven and Earth twin sages saved Luo Yunhai, Yue and Kui Gong by using their yin-yang reversal technique to block the deadly attack. However, the effort drained them, leaving the battle on a knife's edge. Let's begin the chapter. Elders, thank you! Luo Yunhai's eyes were shining, he was laughing, and he cupped his hands in gratitude. But then suddenly the sages were shouting, their voices filled with urgency. Elder Li, don't just stand there, get them out of there now! Whoosh! A black figure flashed like lightning. Before anyone could even blink, a thick hand grabbed Luo Yunhai and the others by their shoulders, yanking them away. It was Li Jingtian, appearing as a blur. Elder Li Jingtian began, looking stunned and confused by the sudden action. But then he saw the heavy, serious look on the elder's face, and he stopped talking. He followed Li Jingtian's gaze, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The sages, who had just been so powerful, were now shaking uncontrollably. Then they coughed, thick, dark blood splattering onto the ground. Their domain soul, that immense, swirling power, instantly collapsed, shattering like glass. The world itself seemed to shake. 4 colossal dragons, spectral and terrifying, erupted above the mystical heaven sect. They tore free from the shattered domain, circled once around the sky, a majestic and frightening display of power, before vanishing, returning to the 4 elders who sat serenely in the air. The spinning circle, the yellow dragon, remained unwavering, just as potent as before. And the 4 elders, floating high above, showed not even the slightest sign of being disturbed by the devastating attack they had just endured. The sages, their faces pale and drawn, stared up at the 4 elders. Fear, raw and palpable, etched itself onto their features. One of the elders chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that carried easily across the tense silence. Ha ha ha, well now, I never knew they had people who could use such a domain soul. It's quite a sight, our first time seeing anything like it, a true rarity. Another elder nodded slowly, a hint of amusement in his voice. A shame you're just too weak. You were already taxed, injured even, before you attacked us. Otherwise, perhaps you might have actually made us get serious. The others chimed in, nodding in agreement, discussing the sage's attack as if they were analyzing a minor flaw in a student's homework, completely ignoring the gravity of the situation, as if the sages were nothing more than an interesting distraction. If not for that, one elder mused idly, I would have actually been curious to see what they looked like under all that power. Humph! Came a shout, laced with fury and desperation. You old fogies sure know how to talk big. So you're saying we're not even worth a glance from you, is that it? And then, following that angry cry, a blinding white light, impossibly bright and searing, shot towards the 4 elders like a physical force, aimed directly at them. Well, why don't you old freaks look at this then? Like an arrow launched from the heavens, a wave of intense burning heat rushed towards the 4 motionless figures. The impact was deafening, the light explosive. When the blinding glare finally faded, where the 4 elders had been, there was now only a pulsating white ball of pure light, the air around it shimmering and distorting from the unimaginable heat. Qiu Yanhai and Sui Qingjian, breathing heavily, their faces strained, stared at the aftermath. They knew, deep down, that the 4 elders were far from dead, not even after unleashing the full force of their life and death art. But as the light began to scatter, revealing what lay beneath, the couple gasped in utter shock and disbelief. How can this be? The elders were still there, still spinning slowly in their circle, as relaxed as if they were enjoying a gentle breeze. Their eyes remained closed, and their mouths were still curved in those infuriating, mocking smiles. The yellow dragon above them continued its ceaseless circling, completely unfazed by the cataclysmic attack that had just erupted at its master's feet. A wave of cold dread washed over the couple. They trembled, their hearts sinking like stones in icy water. They were utterly outmatched. These four beings were in a completely different realm of power. Everyone else watching was gripped by terror. They were simply no match for these terrifying figures. Fan, observing everything with narrowed eyes, finally spoke, a frown deepening on his face. 4 Earth Dragon souls? That's precisely it, sect leader Xuan cackled, his voice dripping with triumph. Didn't I tell you? While you may be ignorant of the Western lands' sect's true power, you should at least know of the demon-scheming sect's high venerable. Fan turned his gaze towards sect leader Xuan, a thoughtful look in his eyes. He nodded slowly. I've heard of him, yes, but I've never actually seen him. Ha ha ha. Then allow me to enlighten you. Sect leader Xuan puffed out, his chest radiating smugness. In the Western lands, we are known as Tianyu's 3 guardian sects, each with their own legendary guardians. Sect leader, Xuan's voice swelled with pride. 1 sword, 5 dragons, that's the name our guardians go by. What? You mean to say? Han Qianying cried out, her voice trembling with disbelief. I've always thought it was just a rumor, a fanciful tale, but it's real? Then these 4 venerables, they are them? Danner, looking confused, tugged at her senior sister's sleeve. Senior sister, what are you talking about? Why don't I know any of this? You haven't been in the sect for long, so of course you wouldn't know, High Venerable said, shaking her head slowly, a look of profound fear and despair in her eyes. Some of the elder members of the sects know that our sect possesses 4 great venerables, guardians defending our home, the heavenly cycle elders, and the demon-scheming sect's elusive sacred dragon is equally renowned. But with so much time having passed, and them never showing themselves, everyone, even many within our sects, had started to dismiss it all as just an old rumor. High Venerable turned her gaze back to the 4 floating elders, her voice barely, above a whisper, filled with dread. If they have truly emerged, not even the demon-scheming sect's entire force could defeat them. Even with the High Venerable himself, we still wouldn't stand a chance. Ha ha ha, exactly, precisely, sect leader Xuan roared with laughter. They are truly the mystical heaven sect's elders, always knowing when to gauge the situation, when to act. Sect leader. Xuan continued, his voice ringing with arrogant glee. 1 sword, 5 dragons. Tianyu's 3 guardian sects, it's made up of the heavenly sword, guarding the heaven-trailing sect. And of the 5 dragons, 4 of them are the Wood Dragon, Fire Dragon, Ice Dragon, and Metal Dragon, the 4 elders right here in our sect. That just leaves the demon-scheming sect's High Venerable, the Hidden Dragon. Although they say he is the strongest of the 5 dragons, how can one single dragon ever hope to defeat a team of 4? Think back to when he, along with the Impermanence 5, attacked the Heavenly Cycle Elders years ago. They were utterly defeated, so even if he shows up now, we have absolutely nothing to fear. Fan narrowed his eyes, his voice heavy as he spoke. So these 4 great experts, these legends who were always in hiding, have finally come out. Humph. Our 4 venerables have been in secluded cultivation for years and years, preparing to break through to the soul harmony stage. But thanks to your reckless assault, you forced their hand. They had no choice but to emerge. Sect leader Xuan sneered, his voice dripping with venom. Fan, you and all your men will die here. Today, ha ha ha. Xuan Xiaoyu was practically bouncing with unrestrained joy. Fan, you vile fiend! You dared to attack a righteous sect like ours, and now you finally see, you finally understand the true power we possess. Ha ha ha! Seeing the father and son duo so utterly consumed by their own self-importance, Fan remained silent, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. My head is still firmly attached to my shoulders, he thought dryly. Aren't you two jumping the gun just a little bit? He then raised an eyebrow, glancing back at the 4 seemingly invincible elders. They sure are strong, he admitted inwardly. Guess these two aren't completely full of hot air after all. Cries of pain and terror suddenly filled the air. As Li Jingtian had saved Luo Yunhai and the others, the Luo clan's ethereal stage experts had finally arrived, rushing to the scene. 36 powerful figures surrounded the four, elders, their faces grim, ready to fight. But the four elders simply made a silent hand sign, a subtle shift in their posture. And then the yellow dragon above roared, a sound that vibrated through the very bones. As they continued to spin in their circle, spectral dragons erupted from them, each one a terrifying manifestation of elemental power. The dragons shot outwards, making a deadly circuit around the circle of ethereal stage experts, and then returned to their masters, their terrifying mission complete. Each time a dragon soul made its deadly pass, it claimed at least one victim. The devastating power of the Earth Dragon's soul, combined with the overwhelming might of this coordinated formation, turned the battlefield into a living hell for the Luo clan experts. They couldn't even get close to the spinning circle of elders. They were dying, cut down before they could even launch a single attack. Everyone watching was paralyzed by shock. Even the demon scheming sect's older members, those who understood the legends of the High Venerable and the Four Dragons, were struck dumb with fear. If even the High Venerable can't defeat them, they thought in despair, then we are all just marching towards our deaths. The mystical heaven sect's ranks, previously teetering on the brink of collapse, were now surging with renewed morale. Their ultimate support had arrived. Their victory seemed assured. I never truly believed these old devils were anything. More than just stories, just rumors, Han Qianying murmured, her voice heavy with resignation. 4 Earth Dragon souls, and even forming the Heaven Cycle array. How in the world are we supposed to cope with something like this? She sighed, turning to Qilang, who stood steadfastly by her side, protecting her. Qilang, she said softly. It seems our time together is destined to be tragically brief. Qilang gently took her hand in his gaze unwavering, filled with love and resolve. With you by my side, even a moment is enough. Han Qianying offered him a bright, albeit bittersweet smile. She nodded, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. Those who witnessed this tender exchange felt a pang of sadness in their hearts. The two lovers, their feelings for each other undiminished by the passage of years, had finally been reunited, only to face the prospect of being torn apart once more, perhaps forever. The demon scheming sect's defeat now seemed inevitable, spelling certain death for them all. Sect leader Xuan and his followers were openly sneering, their faces twisted with malicious satisfaction, but amidst the despair and resignation, Zhuo Fan's eyes were still bright, still sharp, still calculating. He took a deep, steadying breath, a subtle shift in his demeanor. I really didn't want to do this, he thought, his mind racing. But what choice is there now?